I sat in the gleaming boardroom of Harrison Global, my family's company, watching my uncle's face turn red with rage. The quarterly shareholders' meeting had devolved into yet another attack on my ability to contribute to the business. For God's sake, Sophia, Uncle Richard slammed his hand on the mahogany table. You've been here 3 years and what have you accomplished? Your division is bleeding money. Of course it was. They'd put me in charge of their dying print media branch, a deliberate setup for failure. Meanwhile, my cousin Drew ran the profitable digital sector, despite having half my qualifications and none of my tech background. If you'd let me implement the digital transformation plan I proposed, I started. More of your wild ideas about AI and automation? Drew smirked from across the table. This is a real business, cousin, not one of your tech fantasies. I looked around the room at the faces I'd known all my life. Aunt Margaret, examining her manicure with practiced indifference. Cousin Victoria, hiding her smile behind a coffee cup. The board members, all family friends, avoiding eye contact. My father would have defended me. But he died 5 years ago, leaving me his board seat and 15% of Harrison Global's shares. They'd been trying to push me out ever since. The numbers don't lie, Uncle Richard continued, pulling up a PowerPoint slide. Your division's losses are dragging down our entire quarterly report. The board has concerns. Of course they did. The same board that approved Drew's excessive spending on outdated systems but rejected every innovation I suggested. I moved to have Sophia removed from her position, Drew announced, straightening his designer tie. And given her limited business acumen, perhaps it's best if she sells her shares to those who understand the company's true value. The room hummed with murmurs of agreement. I noticed several board members nodding. They'd clearly discussed this before the meeting. All in favor? Uncle Richard asked, not even bothering to hide his satisfaction. Hands rose around the table. Even Aunt Margaret, who'd spent every Christmas telling me how much I reminded her of my father, voted to oust me. Well, Sophia, Uncle Richard's voice dripped with fake sympathy, the board has spoken. You have until the end of the week to clear out your office. As for your shares, he slid a document across the table. We're prepared to offer you a generous buyout. I picked up the paper, examining the offer with an expressionless face. The amount was well below market value. They expected me to be too naive to notice. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 2 years. While they thought I was failing at running their print media division, I'd been watching, learning, and building something of my own. Nova Investment Group, a company that specialized in acquiring and modernizing traditional businesses. I'd used my trust fund to start it, operating through shell companies and private holdings to keep my name hidden. In 2 years, we'd acquired and transformed 12 companies, turning dying businesses into digital powerhouses. My wild ideas about AI and automation had made Nova one of the fastest-growing investment firms in the country. But to my family, I was still just poor, weak Sophia who couldn't possibly understand real business. You're right, I said quietly, looking Uncle Richard in the eye. I should sell my shares. His eyebrows shot up. He'd clearly expected more resistance. In fact, I continued, pulling out my phone, I already have a buyer lined up. They've been quite interested in Harrison Global's potential. What are you talking about? Drew's smirk faltered slightly. You can't sell without board approval. Actually, I can. Dad made sure my shares came with unrestricted transfer rights. Check the bylaws. Uncle Richard's face paled. He knew I was right. He'd helped write those bylaws himself. Who's the buyer? Aunt Margaret finally looked up from her manicure, a hint of worry crossing her face. I smiled, remembering all the times they'd dismissed my ideas, mocked my suggestions, and treated me like a child playing at business. Nova Investment Group, I said calmly. They specialize in digital transformation of traditional companies. In fact, I checked my watch. Their offer to purchase my shares should be arriving any moment. As if on cue, the boardroom door opened. My assistant walked in carrying a thick envelope. The contracts you requested, Ms. Harrison, she said, using my real name, not the fake one I used at Nova. The room went silent as I opened the envelope and began spreading documents across the table. Purchase agreements, transfer forms, and most importantly, Nova Investment Group's complete portfolio, showing our successful company transformations and our $2.8 billion in assets under management. You see, I looked around the table, enjoying their shocked expressions. While you were all busy underestimating me, I was building something rather impressive. And now? I smiled. I think it's time for Harrison Global to undergo some changes. Drew grabbed the portfolio, his hands shaking as he flipped through the pages. This is impossible. You couldn't have. This company is worth billions. Amazing what can happen when you actually listen to those wild ideas about AI and automation, isn't it? Uncle Richard's face had turned from pale to gray. You're Nova's CEO? The company that's been buying up traditional businesses. Founder and CEO, I corrected him. And we don't just buy businesses, Uncle Richard. We transform them. Bring them into the digital age. Exactly what I've been trying to do here for 3 years. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Now about that buyout offer. I pulled out another document from my briefcase. Here's my counteroffer. Nova Investment Group will purchase my 15% stake in Harrison Global at fair market value, significantly higher than your insulting proposal. This is ridiculous, Drew sputtered. You can't seriously expect us to believe that I built a successful company while you were all mocking my ideas? I clicked a button on my phone and the boardroom screens came to life. Let me show you exactly what Nova Investment Group has been doing. The screens filled with data. Financial charts, acquisition histories, digital transformation metrics. Every success they dismissed as impossible was there in stark, undeniable numbers. In the past 2 years, I continued, Nova has transformed 12 traditional companies into digital leaders. Our average post-acquisition revenue growth is 312%. And our technology division, you know, the one with all those wild ideas, holds 23 patents for AI-driven business solutions. Uncle Richard's hands gripped the edge of the table. Why all the secrecy? Why hide behind Nova? Because you taught me well, I smiled coldly. Wasn't it you who always said, never let them see you coming? Besides, it was fascinating to watch you dismiss Nova's market presence while simultaneously complaining about losing business to our transformed companies. Aunt Margaret leaned forward, her carefully maintained composure cracking. But your division here, the losses, were carefully managed, I finished for her. I needed you to underestimate me to keep pushing me out. Every decision you made played right into my strategy. Strategy. Victoria finally spoke, her voice sharp. What strategy? I clicked to the next slide, showing Nova's complete analysis of Harrison Global. While you were all busy mocking my performance, I was conducting the most thorough evaluation of this company's weaknesses and potential. Every failed project, every outdated system, every missed opportunity, I documented it all. Drew's face had turned an interesting shade of white. The digital sector reports I sent you were incredibly helpful, I nodded. Though you might want to be more careful about sharing confidential data with someone you consider incompetent. I stood up, walking slowly around the table. Nova doesn't just want my 15% stake. We're preparing to make an offer for controlling interest in Harrison Global. And thanks to your meticulous efforts to prove my incompetence, we have everything we need to convince the remaining shareholders that new management is necessary. You can't do this, Uncle Richard's voice shook. This is your family's company. Family. I stopped behind his chair. Like when you blocked my promotion last year. Or when you gave Drew my father's office the day after his funeral. That kind of family. The room fell silent. Even the board members who had so eagerly voted to remove me were now staring at their hands, avoiding eye contact. I returned to my seat, pulling out one final document. Nova's official offer will be presented tomorrow. But I thought you deserved a preview. After all, we're family. The number on the page made Victoria gasp. Drew actually swayed in his chair. This is a courtesy, I continued. A chance to accept gracefully before we take this to the shareholders. And believe me, they'll be very interested in Nova's track record of transforming outdated companies into modern, profitable enterprises. And if we refuse? Uncle Richard's voice was barely a whisper. Then I release my complete analysis of Harrison Global's systemic failures under current management, including some rather questionable decisions about resource allocation, particularly in Drew's division. I smiled at my cousin. Those confidential reports were really quite revealing. My assistant appeared at the door again. Miss Harrison? Your next meeting is in 15 minutes. The Nova board is waiting. Thank you, Claire. I began gathering my documents. You have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to accept the offer. After that, Nova begins acquiring shares on the open market. And given your recent performance, I glanced at the financial charts still displayed on the screens. I suspect many shareholders will be eager to sell. Wait, Aunt Margaret called as I reached the door. What happens to us? To the family. I turned back, remembering all the family dinners where they'd belittled my ideas, all the board meetings where they'd dismissed my suggestions. That depends. Nova typically retains employees who demonstrate actual value. Those who've been coasting on family connections, however. I let the sentence hang. Well, I hear the job market is quite competitive these days. The news broke the next morning. Nova Investment Group acquires controlling interest in Harrison Global. The business world was stunned to learn that Nova's mysterious founder was the same person Harrison's board had just voted to remove. Uncle Richard took early retirement rather than work under my leadership. Drew lasted 3 months before resigning. He couldn't handle reporting to the cousin he'd spent years mocking. Victoria and Aunt Margaret sold their shares and moved to Florida, where they reportedly tell anyone who'll listen about their ungrateful niece who stole the family company. The transformation of Harrison Global became Nova's most successful project yet. We implemented every innovation they'd rejected, modernized every system they'd clung to, and within a year the company's value had tripled. I kept the boardroom exactly as it was, though. The same mahogany table where they'd voted to remove me now hosts Nova's executive meetings. Sometimes when I'm sitting in Uncle Richard's old chair, making decisions that shape the company's future, I think about that last board meeting. They thought they were getting rid of a weak link. Instead, they drove me to build something powerful enough to take everything from them. Last week, Drew applied for a job at one of Nova's subsidiary companies. His resume cited his experience leading digital transformation at Harrison Global. I had Claire send him our standard rejection letter. We're looking for candidates with genuine innovation experience. The Harrison Global building looks different now. Modern, open, dynamic. The only thing I kept unchanged was the lobby sign, though I added a small plaque beneath it. A Nova Investment Group company, embracing the future they feared. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they can't ignore, can't dismiss, and can't escape. Every time they see Harrison Global in the news, topping industry rankings and breaking revenue records, they're reminded of the weak niece they underestimated. As for me, I'm still acquiring companies, still transforming outdated businesses into modern successes. But now everyone knows exactly who they're dealing with. After all, I learned from the best. They taught me everything about family business, especially how to take it away from family who doesn't deserve it.